Chaitanya Charitamrita. So
maybe you can talk about Gajendra.
Gajendra, okay. Gajendra Mokshana. Okay, let's just get this set up. All right. I think we're ready to go. Gajendra Mokshana. Give me 1 second.
Eight. Yeah, 8.3.
Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihare Jana Malabat Girivardhanaji Gopi Jana Balabat Girivardhanaji Yasunanandana Brajachana Dandahula Sudanandana Brajachana Dandana Muna Tera Vanachade Yamuna Tira Vanachade Jai Janumadhuva Kunya Vihagure Gangumat Uva Kunya Vihagure Gopi Jana Malabat Girivardhanaji Gopi Jana Jana Balaba Girivardhanaji Yasodananda Vrajachana Nandaguna Yasodananda Vrajachana Nandaguna Unatera Manachati Unatera Manachati Rahman Uva Kunya Vihagure Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhikacharya. Also tell us such as Shimad, His Divine Grace. Abhaya Charana Bhaktivedanta Goswami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti. Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya. Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shiveda Gadadha Shivasiri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Govardhana Sayam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Ki Jai Charanam Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Ki Jai Madhumai Ki Jai Shimani Lasidevi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhuvane Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Kachami Nirashesha Srinivadi Paschacha Dejatarani. So we're going to read from the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, and I'm trying to figure out which text we want to do. Second. Okay, Gajendra Moksha story. All right. All right. We don't want to be too. Okay. So we're going to read from the 30th verse of the 2nd chapter of the 8th canto. How about that? So, I guess, do any of you have the book?
Yeah. Which sorry.
8 to 30.
8 to 30.
Okay. Tato Kijendrasya Mano Valojasam Kalena Yagena Mahan Abud Vayaha Vikshamanasya Jale Vasidato Viparyayo Bhut Sakalam Jalaukasaha Tato Gajendrasya Mano Valaujasam Kalena Dirgena Mahanna Bhutvayaha Vikrishamanasya Jaleva Sidato Viparyayo Bhut Sakalam Jalaukasaha Atatoga Jendra Shamano Valaukachasam Kalena Dirgena Mahanna Bhutvayaha Vikrishamanasya Jaleva Sidato Paryayo bhut sakalam jalaukasaha.
Vipareyo bhut sakalam jalokashaha.
Tato gajendrasya manobalaukasyasam.
Tato gajendrasya manobalokasam.
Kalena dirgena mahana bhutvyaha.
Kalena dirgena mahana bhutyaha.
Vikrishamanasya jalevasi dato.
Vikrishamanasya jalevasi dato.
Viparyo bhut sakalam jalaukasaha.
Vipareyo bhut sakalam jalokashaha.
Okay, anyone want to try it?
Tato gajendrasya manobhalaujasham.
Tato gajendrasya manobhalaujasham.
Kalena dirghena mahana bhutyaha.
Kalena dirghena mahana bhutyaha.
Vikrishyamanasya jalevasi dato.
Vikrishamanasya jalevasi dato.
Viparyayo bhut sakalam jalaukashaha.
Viparyayo bhut sakalam jalokashaha. Tato gajendrasya manobhalaujasham.
Tato gajendrasya manobhalaujasham.
Kalena dirghena mahan abhudvyaha.
Kalena dirghena mahana bhutyaha.
Vikshyamanasya jalevasi dato.
Vikrishamanasya jalevasi dato.
Viparyayo bhut sakalam jalokashaha.
Viparyayo bhut sakalam jalaukashaha.
All right. Tataha.
Tataha.
Thereafter.
Thereafter,
Gaja Indrasya
Gajendrasya
of the king of the elephants. Manaha
Manaha
of the strength of enthusiasm.
of the strength of enthusiasm.
Bala
Bala,
the physical strength.
Physical strength.
Ojasam
Ojasam.
and the strength of the senses.
And the strength of the senses.
Kalena
Kalena.
because of years of fighting.
because of
The years of fighting.
Dirgena
Dirghena.
prolonged.
Prolonged.
Mahan
Mahan.
great.
Great.
Abut
Abud.
became.
Became.
Vyayaha
Vyaya.
the expenditure.
expenditure.
Vikrishamanasya
Vikrishamanasya.
who was being pulled
Pulled
by the crocodile.
by the crocodile.
Jale
Jale.
into the water,
Into the water.
a foreign place.
Foreign.
Avasidataha reduced mental, physical, and sensory strength.
Reduce mental, physical, and sensory strength.
Vipariyaha
Viparyaha.
the opposite.
The opposite.
Abut
Abud.
became.
Became.
Sakalam
Sakalam.
all of them.
All of them.
Jalo kasaha
Jalokashaha.
the crocodile whose home is in the water.
The crocodile whose home is in the water.
So translation. Thereafter, because of being pulled into the water and fighting for many long years, the elephant became diminished in his mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual power. So purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. In the fighting between the elephant and the crocodile, the difference was that although the elephant was extremely powerful, he was in a foreign place in the water. During 1,000 years of fighting, he could not get any food, and under these circumstances, his bodily strength diminished, and because his bodily strength diminished, his mind also became weak and his senses less powerful. The crocodile, however, being an animal of the water, had no difficulties. He was getting food and was therefore getting mental strength and sensual encouragement. Thus, while the elephant became reduced in strength, the crocodile became more and more powerful. Now, from this, we may take the lesson that in our fight with Maya, we should not be in a position in which our strength, enthusiasm, and senses will be unable to fight vigorously. Our Krishna consciousness movement has actually declared war against the illusory energy, in which all the living entities are rotting in a false understanding of civilization. The soldiers in this Krishna conscious movement must always possess physical strength, enthusiasm, and sensual power. To keep themselves fit, they must therefore place themselves in a normal condition of life. What constitutes a normal condition will not be the same for everyone, and therefore there are divisions of Varnashram, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Especially in this age of Kali Yuga, it is advised that no one takes sannyas. Ashvamedam gavaldambam sannyasam palapaitrakam divarena sutotpatim kalo pancha vivarjiyat. That's from the CC and also from the Brahma Vaivarta Purana. From this we can understand in this age the sannyas ashrama is forbidden because people are not strong. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed us an example in taking sannyas at the age of 24 years. But even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advised Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be extremely careful because he had taken sannyas at an early age. For preaching, we give young boys sannyas, but actually it has been experienced they are not fit for sannyas. There's no harm, however, if one thinks he is unfit for sannyas. If he is very much agitated sexually, he should go to the ashram where sex is allowed, namely the Grahastha ashram. That one has been found to be very weak in one place does not mean that he should stop fighting the crocodile of Maya. One should take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, as we shall see Gachendra do, and at the same time, one can be a grahastha if he is satisfied with sexual indulgence. There's no need to give up the fight. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore recommended Stani Stita Shrutikatam Tan Van Manobi. That's actually from the Bhagavatam. From Urkramas stated that. Just stay where you are, just hear and chant, and fix your mind on Krishna. One may stay in whichever ashram is suitable for him. It is not essential that one takes sannyas. If one is sexually agitated, he can enter the Grahastha ashram, but one must continue fighting. For one who is not in a transcendental position, to take sannyas artificially is not a very great credit. If sannyas is not suitable, one may enter the Grahastha ashram and fight Maya with great strength. For one should not give up the fighting and go away. So, okay. Verse again. Tato Gajendra Shimano Velakjasam Kalina Dirgena Mahana Budvayaha Vikrishamana Jaleva Sidato Vario Bhut Sakalam Jalao Kasaha. So Om Gana Tivilanda Shakananjana Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigarveda Maha. So, I mean, we spoke about this first, I think, last time too. But there's, speaking about it again. Now, first thing I want to talk about was fighting with Maya, declaring war on Maya. That's the first topic before we start talking about Varnashram or anything like that. What does it mean to fight with Maya? Do you just like say, Maya, put up your dukes, as they say in boxing? I challenge you. It doesn't work like that. And of course, we understand it's impossible to overcome Maya or fight with Maya. Mama Eva Yeper Pajante. That if you surrender to Krishna, but what does it mean practically? You can say surrender to Krishna. How practical is that? Anyway, surrender for so what it means is being steady. There's a platform in devotional service which is called Nishta. Nishta means steady, basically 24 hours a day, but at least being steady in your sadhana. So in sadhana and vows, two different things. To be stable year after year, century after century, if you ever get that old. So I oftentimes talk about this whole story we learned when we were young about the tortoise and the hare in this particular regard. That you have the hare, not hare, which means rabbit, for those you don't know, that are cute little rabbits. The rabbit can go very, very quickly. And the tortoise, I mean, you ever try to catch a rabbit, a wild rabbit? For example, I was just in New Zealand and there's billions of wild rabbits everywhere. They've always were complaining it's taking over their property. And so, of course, some of you think, isn't that cute? But it's not so cute after a while. So anyways, the rabbit can go very fast and the tortoise goes very slow, and you can catch the tortoise quite easily. And so once upon a time, this is where it goes, they were having to race and they challenged each other to race, and the rabbit went very fast, but he took a little nap in the middle and he thought, there's no way that this tortoise is going to catch up. So the tortoise was doing something we call slow and steady. We learned this one verse when I was young, before I joined Krishna consciousness movement. Slow and steady wins the race. So that means not trying to emulate means copy, for those you don't know. It means not trying to copy someone who is more advanced. It's like we sometimes see that people copy Srila Prabhupada. Now, I'm not talking about following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. I'm talking about copying Anusar, Anukar. You understand that? And so what happened, let's talk about a little bit about ISKCON. Of course, Prabhupada makes a reference here in the purport about his experience with sannyasis. They gave sannyas at an early age, and you see that most of them didn't continue as sannyasis. I took sannyas at 28. Here I am still. It took 1971. Not 71. That's when I joined. 1978, I took sannyas at 71. 71, I became a brahmachari. So anyway, Prabhupada was actually referring to that, but I'm going to make another reference as to what happened after Prabhupada left the planet. When Prabhupada left the planet, then there were certain people who took the position of guru at that point. And many of them, I'm not saying all, and we're not using names, obviously, many of them imitated Prabhupada. They thought, that's what it means to be a guru. You have your permanent Vyasasana in the temple. Some of them had like permanent Vyasasans, and they had to have simultaneous Guru Puja for every morning with Prabhupada, simultaneous Guru Puja, which obviously the GBC later corrected that. And because of that, and demanding obedience the way that Prabhupada did. Prabhupada could chastise someone, but it was done not with a desire to control someone, but it was the desire to do whatever is best for the particular individual. And it was purifying. But if someone who is not on that level tries to impose the same sort of authoritarianism, what it will do is drive people away. And also, if someone who is not on that level, or even if they are on that level, tries to deal with their god brothers in that particular way, they were thinking, some people were thinking that I become a guru of my god brothers. And so they were imitating Prabhupada instead of understanding their actual position. So instead, we should actually follow in Prabhupada's footsteps. What does it mean to follow in Prabhupada's footsteps? To understand, just like we have a Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Oh my God. To understand Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood doesn't mean to actually imitate Lord Chaitanya. Just like the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan, or Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swa Vedantikam. That's Rupa Goswami. In Mano Bishtam, he's understood the mentality or the understanding or the desires of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Prabhupada's desire, obviously, was to keep the Krishna consciousness movement, to push forward the movement, increase the number of devotees, and to remain as a humble servant of the society. So people took a position, in other words, that they didn't have the adhikar for. That's really the essence here. They didn't have the adhikar. I mean, there's different requisites that are there for different positions. I mean, for example, even for someone who was getting married, one has to have a certain adhikar. What's the adhikar? No one should become a father or mother or spiritual master unless they're capable of what? Liberating their descendants from the cycle of birth and death. So that's, there's an adhikar. Or if you work a job, you may have certain requisites like level of education, experience, a good CV, or at least in India, bribe the right person. Isn't it? So, whatever. Not so much anymore. Actually, India's getting much better in that regard. So there's an adhikar. So as far as taking sannyas, I mean, actually, I was just reading the Bhagavatam. Let's talk about sannyas in a second. But Prabhupada said there's even an adhikar for going beyond the first two cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's right there in Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada, of course, this is the 8th canto. I don't know if we have the adhikar. So Prabhupada said, unless one is at a certain level of devotional service, understanding the greatness of God and steady in one's devotional service, then one's not qualified to go beyond the first and second canto. First and second canto are the basically the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's interesting how there's a certain right or certain adhikar for doing certain things. So in the Varnashram system, let's get to the main point Prabhupada was making here, because that was on Prabhupada's mind, obviously. Prabhupada had to deal with sannyasis who were not able to follow the certain one principle. There's just one principle. They didn't eat meat or anything like that. And Prabhupada wanted the devotees who couldn't follow to continue in Krishna consciousness. However, then in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have that story of Junior Haridas. Everybody knows that story. That Junior Haridas, he did something really minor. He was alone with an old lady for a little while. Just like it doesn't even tip the scales at all with what we have to deal with in the Krishna conscious movement. So many times we have to, apart from the sannyas thing, we have to deal with pastoral abuse, even child abuse. Just practice. It's a practical world where people are just basically contaminated. And, it's really difficult to deal with all these things. So we need an ISKCON. We have a whole organization for prevention of pastoral abuse. Pastoral abuse means where, not necessarily sannyasi, where you have a temple president, where you have any leader in the Krishna Brahman, and they are taking advantage of their position to exploit others. Just like if a temple president has a relationship with someone who he's counseling, or a psychiatrist, even apart from the Krishna conscious movement, has a relationship with one of his clients. That's, of course, not pastoral abuse. That's professional abuse. So we have to have a whole organization that deals with this. We have to have a sannyas committee that monitors the sannyasis. We have to have a CPO, Child Protection Organization. that make sure the children are protected, make sure that the children are educated as what is to be accepted and what is not to be accepted. I mean, it's really Kali Yuga. You know, it's really, it's a crazy scene, you know, like that. So anyway, getting back to the point. So in Varnashram, of course, you can't regulate people as far as forcing them into certain slots in Varnashram, but people should be aware as to what their psychophysical nature is. And that's, of course, Prabhupada said that's one of the duties of the spiritual master, to help the devotee ascertain what their psychophysical nature is. In terms of Varnashram, and Varnashram, of course, Varna means in terms of what work they're going to do. And all of them can become Brahmins in the sense of taking second initiation and doing deity worship. At least Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. You know, even someone who is an artist like Prabhupada, you know, that's a Shudra, that's occupation. Doesn't mean they're Shudra, but it means their occupation is Shudra. And when one is engaged in one's occupation according to one's psychophysical nature, that means the modes of nature, then one can actually be steady in Krishna consciousness. And then also there's the ashram. When one is situated in one's home life, you know, what one does apart from one's work, then one can be steady in Krishna consciousness. So this is very, very important. And everybody, Kiva Vipra Kiva Nyashi, Shudra Keta Naya, Krishna Tapa Veta Se Guru Hoy, everybody can guide others in Krishna consciousness. There's no discrimination as to whether someone is more advanced or less advanced in Krishna consciousness, or worthy of respect or not worthy of respect. It's just a question of people being situated properly. Very, very simple thing. So that's actually the message of Srila Prabhupada's purport. And Gajendra, getting back to the story, Gajendra is the elephant, he's in the water, and he basically wasn't situated properly. He was in the water. Actually, previously in the story, he went in the water and he was trying to enjoy life. So let's even further the metaphor. You know, he was enjoying life with all his beautiful female elephants with their nice trunks. And, wow, what a nice trunk you have. Isn't it? Well, I mean, every species of life, you know, they're attached, they're attracted. Right? I guess the cockroaches are attracted to the other cockroaches. It's just, you know, it's part of life. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any little baby cockroaches running around. So anyway, he was trying to enjoy in an unnatural environment. Let's just be metaphorical here. And that unnatural environment is the water. So when we're trying to enjoy, another way to understand, in this material world, which is our unnatural environment, then we're not going to be strong. Okay. Apart from that, there's another issue. Prabhupada mentioned one must be strong in physical strength and health. So apart from the Varnashram considerations, one has to take care of one's health. Oftentimes we find devotees neglecting their physical constitution, their physical health. So it's very, very important to take care of one's health and be practical, you know, adjusting the diet and other considerations like that. So anyway, so that's the points I wanted to make. So any questions or comments? Questions?
Maybe I start again with it.
What?
Can I start the question?
Yes, yeah.
So okay, so the water is the unnatural environment for.
Yeah,
for
it can be
Gajendra.
considered there's two things. I use this as a metaphor. The two things are one's unnatural environment in terms of Varna and Ashram.
Yeah.
And the other way was unnatural environment in terms of the material world.
Yeah. Okay. So if we are situated in an unnatural environment, like an ashram we shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
So what does that metaphor mean?
You
That,
shouldn't take sannyas, don't worry.
That's the Houston. But does that mean that we are more prone to then being attacked by Maya when we are not?
We are more prone to be unsteady in our sadhana and more prone to be attracted to things that are detrimental to our Krishna consciousness. Like if one is married, actually the wife protects the husband's senses. There's that statement in the Bhagavatam. Because if one's not married, I mean, it's just like sometimes, as far as the ladies are concerned, they wear a wedding ring, right? And so, that sort of protects you. The men look, oh, she has a wedding ring. Because nowadays it's Kali Yuga, there's no protection like that. Yeah, but previously, ladies had in India the dot. And so that signifies you're not free. I mean, just like all these stories, like when Ravana saw Vedavati on top of the mountain, Vedavati, executing austerities, he could see that she wasn't married.
Yeah.
So of course he had no discrimination. He would approach people who were married, unmarried, doesn't matter. So, but still, he could see that she had not yet found the husband. And so he was a little bit more forward than he normally is with her. So that there's certain signs, external signs, that help one. And there's also one's consciousness and one's attachment to one's family can protect one. Oftentimes as sannyasis, we talk against family attachment.
Yeah.
There's so many verses we can pull out of our hats or out of our seekas or whatever. That, I mean, I memorized them all. As a sannyasi. And sometimes I've seen sannyasis give class and the householders or ladies run out of class screaming and crying like that. You got to be really careful. I mean, the other day, this had nothing to do with sannyas, or the other days, someone was giving a class talking about how if you commit suicide, you become a ghost, without realizing that one of the ladies had a daughter who committed suicide who was attending class, and she just started screaming and ran out of class. So you got to be really sensitive. But preaching has to be according to time, place, and circumstance. Like if someone is preaching to people who are married, then that attachment actually helps one. It actually helps one if one is attached to one's family, to one's children. And if you're not attached to your family and children, that's a disaster. The man tells his wife that, you're just like another spirit soul, like any other spirit soul in this material world. You actually try it. You better not. You won't eat for several weeks. So, no, it's attachment that frees one. It frees one. One should love one's children. They'll throw me out of the sannyas. But anyway, one should love one's children. One should love one's wife. Why not? Why not? Because that will keep you steady in devotional service. That's the real point. So anyway, getting back to the point, like in the Prabhupada had to deal with sannyasis falling down, and the devotees were always quoting this one part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Junior Haridas, because he did something that wouldn't even bend the needle. Prabhupada said no. Actually, one devotee heard this from Prabhupada, and before Prabhupada said no, and he left in the middle of the conversation, and he was a sannyasi, and he committed suicide. He went to the Triveni, and he had, it was in a boat, and he had people tie stones or rocks to him,
Oh my God.
and he jumped in. Yeah, that happened with one devotee. And then, because he was on a morning walk with Prabhupada, and there was this whole discussion about Juna Haridas and everything like that. And halfway through the discussion, Prabhupada sort of mellowed a little bit, and he said they should just continue, serving Krishna and change their ashram. Which is, it's basically considered a disgrace, but, this is Kali Yuga. And then devotee didn't hear the second half of the conversation. So he committed suicide. And he was a very nice devotee. So it was a disaster when he just disappeared. So therefore, Prabhupada wanted people just, even though it's terrible for your reputation and everything like that, still you continue. You continue serving Krishna as best you can, and then you serve. So anyway, but yes, one should be attached to one's family. Yeah. Yeah, you love your children. I mean,
Of course. Yeah.
practical. And one should like the type of work they do.
Mhm.
Ultimately, you're attached to the bhakti ras rather than the work you're doing. But that takes time. In the beginning, your work, Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmatena Gantavya, Brahmakama Samadhina, because it's dovetailed in Krishna's service, it actually is spiritual. Okay, any other questions? Question? Comments? No?
So Guruji.
Yeah.
So in Varnashrama, so every ashram is not superior to other, but
Well, by etiquette, there's a superiority, but spiritually, no.
so one can continue their journey.
Yeah, I mean, spiritually, a brahmachari could be a pure devotee, whereas a sannyasi could be I don't want to say, but anyway, could be not so advanced in devotional service. He could be sannyasi, but basically, he could still be sometimes on the Kanishta platform. Whereas a brahmachari may be an uttamādhikari. We can't distinguish spiritually because of the ashram or even varna. And we have all these devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu some of them were Shudra Varna. And some of them were Brahmin. Narottama Das Thakur, his family was considered a Shudra family. Who is more advanced than Narottama Das Thakur? So, okay. Yeah, so we don't. But etiquette-wise, yes. Etiquette-wise, there's external etiquette which we follow. Just like you respect your parents, and your parents may be maybe not devotees. But still, there's the etiquette there.
Yeah.
Or if, let's say you're driving your car, which I experienced, and the police pull you over, you don't say, I'm a sannyasi. It doesn't matter.
Maybe in India.
In India, well,
India,
India may work like that. Or they may ask for a bigger bribe. That may happen too, but still, you still have that etiquette. When, let's say if I was to meet some important politician somewhere, then there'd be etiquette. I'd pay respect, even though, spiritually he's probably not as advanced.
Okay.
So there's external etiquette, with sannyasis, etc. like that. And there's internal stuff. Okay, yeah.
Ask one more question, if you don't mind. Just when in the Shastras and even in the purport, when we just read, Srila Prabhupada says it's not recommended in Kali to become a sannyasi.
Yeah.
Yet when he started the movement, there were quite a lot of young devotees joining as sannyas.
Yes.
How do you reconcile and balance that?
Emergency situation.
Yeah.
That I often refer to the cowboy movies.
Oh yeah.
That I don't know if you've ever seen a cowboy movie.
Yeah.
You did. Cowboy, not cowboy in Vrindavan,
Yeah.
cowboy in America.
Yeah.
So what happened is that there weren't enough sheriffs.
Yeah.
The sheriff is like someone
Yeah.
who rides a
Yeah.
horse, has a big badge and everything like that. And so they would deputize people who are not actually qualified, trained up, because there weren't enough.
Mm.
You know, if someone was a little honest, you deputize him as, or understood which hand to use the gun, you know,
Right.
then you would deputize him as a deputy sheriff. So then Prabhupada did that. It's an emergency situation. And also sannyas is required sometimes for preaching, but not for making spiritual advancement. There is absolutely no advantage in Kali Yuga for spiritual advancement in taking sannyas. There is an advantage for preaching. Yeah, first of all, people respect. That's why one reason why Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, apart from the esoteric reason, was that people were not respecting him. His own students were actually chastising him. And at one point he had to run after his own students with a stick because they were chastising, they were chanting the names of the gopis or something. And so Lord Chaitanya took sannyas because it helped his preaching. And Lord Chaitanya was fully aware of the verse from the Brahma Bhagavata Purana that in Kali Yuga sannyas is forbidden. So for preaching, yes, it's necessary, but it doesn't make one more advanced. And if one's not ready, it makes one less advanced. You know, one is a pretender. So one has to be ready for and determined. You know, because it's years and years and years of serving Krishna. I was like, I took sannyas in 1978. It was years. Yeah, I was a young man. And Lord Chaitanya was very young. He was even younger, 24. And so, like Prabhupada mentions in the purport, that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was very concerned. He wanted to re-give him the mantras because he thought that Lord Chaitanya was initiated in a lower sannyas sampradaya, the Bharti sampradaya. So he wanted to reinitiate him in a higher one, like the Tirtha or the Saraswati sampradaya. That he was very concerned. Oh, you are young and handsome, Lord Chaitanya. He didn't know at that point who Lord Chaitanya was. And Lord Chaitanya later on showed him when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his explanation of this particular verse in the Bhagavatam called the Atma Rama verse. Okay, so maybe we should end now. Thank you very much. Nice to be here. All glories to His divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.